Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trylko from the Sons of UCF, joined by Eric Lopez of the Black and Gold Banneret. Welcome to Around the Kingdom. Elo, I am on assignment in a hotel room. Hello to you.
Hello, Trace. Coming up on the fastest UCF show. UCF loses to BYU. Coaching changes. Gone. Ted Roof. Gone is Gus play calling. Does that mean wins are coming? Plus, we'll dissect the question that many of you have asked us to ask that is very impossible to answer. What is wrong with Trace? We'll just try on this edition of Around the Kingdom.
This is a question. Before we get going with all of that, let us welcome in the third member of our team. He is Adam Eaton from the Sons of UCF. Keeps an eye on the clock, keeps us on our toes. Adam, hello.
Gentlemen, good evening. I can start with this, Elo. Trace's use of a comma is important. He's on assignment, comma, and in a hotel room. He's not on assignment in a hotel room. No. Two very different things.
Thank you, Adam. All right, you mentioned it off the top, Elo. Changes for head coach Gus Malzahn, surprising many on Monday, announcing the firing of defensive coordinator Ted Roof, and that he'll be giving up play calling to offensive coordinator Tim Harris Jr. What do you make of these changes as the Knights are in the midst of a 5-game skid?
I make it that, hey, we got to try something else because what we're doing ain't working. 5 straight losses. Defensively, let's start there with Ted Roof. You look at their defense. Adam Eaton, I forget which one of these shows before the season said, if this defense is anywhere worse than last year's, we're in trouble. Guess what? They are. They're giving up more points in conference games than they did last year. They're giving up more yards passing, more third down conversions against them, less sacks. Remember, Trace, how Ted would talk about pressure and blitzes and everything? They're on pace to have less sacks this year than last year. The defense is not better. It's just not. So I think this was going to happen eventually. Right now, who knows? Maybe help some of the recruits with Addison Williams taking over. The Gus play calling thing is more interesting to me with Tim Harris taking over. It seems to me like, hey, this is our last straw. Let's just try this. But it's not boring, that's for sure. Give them credit. They're trying. They're trying to fix it however they can.
Timing strikes me as odd, Elo. Sunday night availability with the coordinators. We spoke with Ted Roof at 6 o'clock. So when was the decision made? Why did Ted Roof go up to the microphone and speak? And not to defend Ted Roof, but 8 games, pulling the plug on Ted Roof in 8 games, and more problems, I think, lie on the offensive side of the ball. Just during his tenure at UCF, Gus has called plays, given up play calling, taken it back. I don't know about whether this change will stick, and that was his way of operating at Auburn as well. So what can you really do with a team that is mired in a 5-game losing streak, 3-5 now with just 4 games remaining? Knights need 3 out of 4 to become bowl eligible. Change, is it really going to produce results?
Do you really think, though, you would have stayed with Ted Roof?
I don't know what the point is of making that change 8 games in unless Gus is acknowledging that it was a mistake to have hired Ted Roof from the beginning.
Well, clearly that's part of it.
But I don't know that was the bigger problem of late. It seems to me the offense has been the bigger problem, and that's more squarely Gus Malzahn looking in the mirror.
Well, the big question then sounds to me like, Trace, you don't have trust in Gus. Is there anything Gus can do to earn the fan base and your trust?
Well, I think if he's serious about not calling plays, and there's a serious move to have an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, again, Addison Williams may be in that position, the remainder of the year next season. If Gus goes back to what he is doing best, being the face of the program, recruiting, and winning really solves all problems, right? So if the team starts to win and he isn't trying to do everything and control everything, then I think you can earn the trust of the fan base back. But I think when the booms come and we get to spring ball and we hear hope springs eternal and this is the greatest team ever, I'm not sure a lot of the fan base is going to buy into that.
I agree. I don't think even if you make a bowl game this year and play well at the end, and maybe you found the quarterback for next year, I don't think people all of a sudden are like, oh, okay, we're good now. I think it's going to take bouncing back and winning next year. The good news is this. The team UCF just played, BYU last year, lost 7 in a row, and they're now a top 10 team undefeated in the Big 12. So it can turn around in a year, even if it doesn't look like that seems optimal right now. I do think that it's good. That's what it's going to take, winning on the field to earn the trust.
Well, you mentioned BYU came into the Big 12 same time as UCF. UCF, the only of the newcomers a year ago to go to a bowl, but now they have been passed not only by Cincinnati, which defeated them a couple of weeks ago, but by BYU in a crowd that was heavily favored there for BYU. Big turnout from Cougar Nation. BYU 37, the Knights 24. That's 5 straight losses, Elo. 3-5 now, and 1-4 in the Big 12. Of course, resulting in the changes we just talked about, was really a mess of a game. Knights had opportunities, but a taunting penalty on quarterback Ja'Cory Brown, a 62-yard touchdown pass right before the half. UCF cannot seem to manage in the last 2 minutes of a half, and then BYU just pounds them in the second half as well. So big mess for the Knights, losers of 3 straight now at home. The bounce house not quite so invincible.
No, it's not. And I wonder the end of that first half where UCF brought pressure in that set up that 62-yard touchdown play, was that the last straw with Ted Roof? Could there have been some differences of opinion as far as play call, the way you've been calling plays, the secondary, maybe some players not playing the correct positions at their best? Who knows? But they dug themselves a hole early in that game. BYU punched them in the mouth. UCF just didn't respond. The only positive was maybe Dylan Risk in relief. Otherwise, it might have been an uglier game. Ja'Cory Brown struggled and just had some bad interceptions there. And that's the thing that's discouraging, Trace. It feels like really outside of the Iowa State game, have you felt good about a UCF performance this year in the Big 12? And TCU, if you want to say TCU at the end of the TCU
in the second half, in the end of the TCU game.
Right.
But I did feel encouraged coming off the performance the Knights had in Ames, Iowa, losing to Iowa State just in the last 30 seconds when Iowa State came from behind. But Knights blew a lead in that one, not adding to Ted Roof's case here, but they were on the field an awful lot. Was it the defense's fault entirely in that loss to BYU? The BYU was on the field for 40 minutes. I know the Knights had troubles getting off the field 3rd and 4th down, but the offense can't do anything. You know, that to me still remains a bigger question mark.
Yeah, but I mean, defensively, they're worse this year against 3rd down conversions. I think they're giving up 43% versus 39 last year. They're not better. Like at some point, defense got to make stops.
But 8 games. Again, I'm not defending Ted Roof, but 8 games, Zelo. Is that enough?
What's
to know? And this is the guy that
would you have brought him back next year?
I just don't know. We'll see what happens over the next 4 games. I don't know what it accomplishes. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he should have been hired to begin with, but I just don't know what it accomplishes besides change and maybe scapegoating a little bit.
Well, maybe Addison Williams as DC can help snap a 5-game losing streak, which is the second year in a row that UCF has a 5-game losing streak. And perhaps the most bizarre question in the 2-year history of Around the Kingdom. What is your favorite 5-game losing streak of the 2? That is not my question, people. I swear. I'm reading the question here, Trey.
Last year, Zelo, there were competitive games in that. They blew the lead against Baylor. They nearly beat Oklahoma, had a chance to beat Oklahoma on the road. This stretch, I know it was a close game at Iowa State, but I much more enjoyed the newness in the first year in the Big 12 in that 5-game losing streak than this one. This one more miserable, even.
I enjoyed is a very, very not a proper term, no, I feel like, maybe, for this whole segment. But I will say this year, because first of all, at least we had a big noon kickoff show on campus. We got to see Dion.
Seems like a long time ago.
And you lost a lot of wagers to your nephew with Colorado beating UCF. That was at least enjoyable to see you in misery of your family member there. How many pancakes you got to eat?
What's the margin of victory in that one? 29.
That's
or 27 or something like that.
27. It's pretty close.
All right. Gus Malzahn, embattled head coach of the Knights, gets booed at Spirit Splash. Adam Eaton of this show and the Sons of UCF saying on social media, "Don't police the fans. Fans going to fan." Is it appropriate, Elo, at an event like Spirit Splash to boo the head coach?
I mean, George O'Leary got booed one time there. I mean, everybody gets booed at some point. See, my theory is I don't think they were booing Gus because of the way the season was going. I think that was the Trace Trylko fan base that was booing Gus for the way Gus answers some of Trace's questions. I think the Trace maniacs are not Gus guys. I think we got a lot of support. Yeah.
I will just say this. It does speak a little bit to being tone deaf. You bring RJ Harvey out there to introduce anybody, and the fans will go crazy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Gus should have known better to not be in the spotlight in that situation. And now, boo him as he's coming off the field at halftime or at the end of the game and the loss to BYU. Okay. But don't put yourself in the moment like that as he did. Let RJ Harvey introduce everybody.
Well, I don't think they saw that coming. I mean, but again, he's not the first UCF coach to have been booed there. I mean, it's a celebratory thing, but there's not a lot to celebrate in the football. I mean, people are very frustrated. I think everybody's frustrated with the way this year is going. But hey, optimism. Here comes Space Game Odyssey to save the year. UCF's hosting Arizona, who's got their own problems. And, of course, it means space jerseys, Trace. This is a lock to win, right?
Nothing seems to lock to win. Taking UCF favored again in this one.
5 points.
It's crazy. It's grown throughout the week. Arizona rides into this one on a 4-game losing streak. I have dubbed this the Lost in Space game. It is a mess of a game, Elo. UCF seems to play out of its mind and well in space games. You know what they did a season ago against Oklahoma State. I guess. I don't know. I don't think anybody should be favored in this one. And if UCF can't win this one, all hope lost for any wins the rest of the way.
Yeah, this is their best shot to win. You hope, you got coordinator changes, maybe a quarterback change. Arizona, you wonder how motivated Arizona is playing for the coach Brennan that nobody knows.
Brennan.
Yeah, we'll see how long we get to name him. He may not last longer either, the way they've been playing there. My request, by the way, for whoever does the music at the stage, you've got to play David Bowie Space Odyssey music, right? At some point during this game. At some point.
Yeah, an afternoon tilt in the space game, Elo. All right. Seems like we have a standing item. Is EJ Colson the answer? Is Jakari Brown the answer? This week, Elo, is Dylan Risk the answer? He comes off the bench, creates a little bit of a spark, leads the Knights to a touchdown pass to Jacoby Jones. He finishes 6 of 10, some rushing yards as well. We don't know the starter. Gus has not named that. He was too busy rearranging the chairs on the deck of Titanic on Monday. Elo, is Dylan Risk the answer now?
I don't think there's much of a risk in starting him. Get it, Trace?
You've been waiting all day for that.
I have. Listen, what else you got to do? To me, you're playing for 2025. I think you've been playing for 2025 last year, but I think one of the main goals the rest of the way, Trace, is who is your starting quarterback in 2025? You've already redshirted Dylan Risk, as many fans mentioned to me while I was doing the live post-game show on Black and Gold Banneret Saturday night. So you don't need to redshirt him again. See what he can do out there. Maybe build a competition between him and EJ Colson and see who your starter is in 2025 and get him reps and experience now.
All right. He'll be back in 2025, this next guy. Adam Eaton, time for our silly game.
All right, gents, before we get to that, don't forget, it's brought to you by our good friends at the Cure Bowl, December 20th at Camping World Stadium, downtown, beautiful downtown Orlando. Festivities and a whole bunch of stuff going on, plus a really good college football game. One of the best bowl games you're going to find each and every year. Get involved. Go to curebowl.com for your tickets. Remember, the matchup is always Orlando versus Cancer. Join the home team, curebowl.com. All right, gents, it's Space Week. I've got a trivia quiz this week. I've got questions about space, and I've got questions about the space game. I'm going to start with you, Elo, then go to you, Trace. Here are the rules. You each get to pick a number between 1 to 10. That'll give you the question that I give you. If you get it right, you get 5 points. The person can steal and get 3 points. If you try to steal and get it wrong, you lose 2 points. So
oh my goodness,
steal judicious. Yeah, tell me about it. Elo, numbers 1 to 10. Pick a number, and that'll be your first question. What do you got?
5.
All right, here you go. First question for Elo. What does the acronym NASA stand for?
Oh, man. The National Agriculture of Space Aircraft or something. I don't know.
So close. So close. I mean, I thought you had it on that one. Trace, Trylko, would you like to steal and risk going in the whole 2 points?
I will steal. I will not go with agriculture. National Aeronautics Space Administration.
Holy moly, Trace Trylko with a 2-point game right there. Okay, Trace, you're up next. What's your
agriculture?
Agriculture seems
You're still in Iowa from a week ago.
Pick a number, Trace. 1 to 10. 5 has been taken. What do you got?
7.
All right, number 7 for Mr. Trace Trylko. How many times has UCF played a non-conference opponent in a space game?
Ooh, a non? Oh, I don't know that. Do I have to answer?
It'd be preferred, yes.
Ooh. I don't remember every space game.
If you could answer today, that'd be helpful too.
Sorry, it's a 3-minute segment. Once.
Once is incorrect. Elo, would you like to steal and risk 2 points?
I'll try it. I'll say they have never played.
That is correct. Eric Lopez is correct. Space game has always been a conference game. Elo,
that was a little tricky.
You're up next. Pick a number between 1 to 10. 5 and 7 already taken.
3.
All right, your question. The first spacecraft to bring astronauts to the moon was named what?
Well, clearly the lower the numbers, not the easier the question. Clearly, what they got for this game. The national aircraft? I don't know.
That is incorrect. Trace Trylko, a 2-point swing here. Can you steal first spacecraft to bring astronauts to the moon?
I should know that. I don't know that.
Okay,
Apollo something.
I'm sorry, I cannot give you that. It's Apollo 11. Nobody gets points there. Nobody gets points there. Trace, give me a number 2. All right.
2.
Who has accounted for the most touchdowns in space game history? Most touchdowns accounted for in space game history.
Dylan Gabriel.
That is incorrect. Eric Lopez, would you like to try to steal here for 2 points?
No, I'm not confident going for it.
All right. The answer is John Rice Plumlee with 10. Dylan Gabriel has 9. Elo. Give me a number.
1.
You picked the wrong one. Who was the first American woman to go to space? First American woman in space.
What are we doing here? Get rid of the space game now.
We live 45 minutes from the space coast. Neither one of us know anything.
Exposing us for frauds that we are. All right. Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong, not the first woman in space. Trace, would you like to steal and risk 2 points?
I do not want to steal.
All right. The correct answer was Sally Ride. Trace, give me a number.
That's right. I remember that.
That's a heck of a name.
This segment's still going 10 minutes. We got no show left, Elo.
6, 10, 8, 9, and 4. What do you got? Last one. 6, 10, 8, 9, 4.
9.
In what Florida city is Kennedy Space Center located?
Titusville.
Incorrect. Eric Lopez, would you like to steal and risk 2 points here?
Yes.
Man.
Okay.
Cape Canaveral in Melbourne.
That's 2 different cities. Both of them incorrect. The answer is actually Merritt Island. The actual address is Merritt Island. And all right, one last one for both of you. Whoever wants to answer first, go ahead. What are the most points ever scored in a space game by UCF?
52.
70 against Temple in 2022. Who is the only school to play UCF twice in a space game?
Oh, wow. Twice. A repeat offender? Cincinnati?
Also Temple. And last one, who has the most passing yards in a space game?
Dylan Gabriel.
That is correct. You had 422 in 2020 versus Tulsa. I don't think you won.
Oh, nobody won.
Nobody.
Coast,
Nobody won.
And Melbourne are all 3 different cities. Enjoy.
Merritt Island.
Merritt Island. That's Mark Moses.
All right, Elo, we got to start speeding up here.
Oh, we got to speed it up. Like, that's our fault. All right, hey. Speaking of speeding up, should UCF just go ahead and speed it up here, Tracy? Just turn it over to the young players and play for 2025.
Not as long as they could still reach a bowl game.
Oh, come on.
Really? Not as long as there's still something to play for, Elo.
Are you going to that bowl game if they go?
I probably am not. I think you got to find the right mix here, Elo.
I think you play for 2025. You got to find your quarterback, find some players, build the core for next year. Now, look, maybe by playing those players helps you get to qualify for a bowl game. You might win some of those games. I'm not sure that playing guys that won't be here next year is going to help you moving forward. I mean, BYU didn't make a bowl game last year. They're doing just fine this year. I'm about playing the young guys. You got to find out what you got for next year.
All right. Can they finish with wins in 3 of their final 4 games against Arizona, the space game, at Arizona State, at West Virginia, and hosting Utah? There is possibility there, Elo.
Absolutely, but they got to win this game. You cannot get there without winning the Arizona game. If you can win the Arizona game, then you play the Utah, who, I mean, they just lost to Houston. They got their own problems. They just fired their own coordinator. Yeah, they lost to Houston.
Next week's silly game, there'll be questions about Houston, and that's based on.
No, I'm not even touching the subject, but I think UCF can win the Arizona and the Utah game. All you got to do is split the road games. West Virginia just fired a coordinator too. Everybody's firing coordinators. UCF could sneak in at 6-6, but they got to win this weekend. Otherwise, it's done. They're not winning 3 in a row to finish the year.
Yeah. Now, Elo, before the space game, it's Hall of Fame week for UCF.
It really is. Thoughts on this class? Look, Kirk Sparrow and Shaquem Griffin are the headliner. Shaquem Griffin, a great ambassador for the football program. Kirk Sparrow, Trace, you would agree. Without Kirk Sparrow, I mean, where would UCF basketball be? They were the worst Division I basketball program when he took over in the early mid-'90s. I'm not sure UCF would be sniffing being in the Big 12 if their basketball didn't raise a level that Kirk helped, and then Johnny. That, to me, are the headliners there. Chris Duffy, maybe the best power hitter in the last 10, 15, 20 years in UCF baseball history.
And Mark Giacone, the subject of a Sons Today interview with our very own Adam Eaton. You can find that on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel. He's also in the class. Anne-Marie Blaney from track and field, Ashley Holder, women's golf. Congratulations to all of them. Ceremony Friday night at the Celeste Hotel, and no doubt will be recognized during Saturday's space game against Arizona. All right, shifting gears, Elo. Can you believe we're in basketball season? Knights take it on the chin in Tuesday exhibition at Georgia. Rather sizable loss. Still no official word from UCF on the status of Jalen Sellers. We are hoping for media availability with head coach Johnny Dawkins, but regardless of whether Sellers plays or his status, the Knights will host Texas A&M, which played in an exhibition and lost at Houston the other day. What do you make of this basketball season as it is upon us? 11 new faces, 9 incoming transfers.
Do they mesh? Do they click? How long does it take them to click? I think that's the big question. They don't start easy. I think this is the toughest opener in the history of this program in Division I, playing an A&M team that's a top 15 team in the preseason polls. They return 80% of their roster. This is a tall order for a group that's still learning each other. And you mentioned, we don't know Jalen Sellers' status. Johnny Dawkins said on Big 12 Media Days, no surgeries talked about or any of that, so that's good news. But they have upside, they have talent, but again, can they mesh? We don't know. And again, don't jump to conclusions over opening night.
Yeah, and don't jump to conclusions. They beat Florida Gulf Coast. They trailed there. They did not play as well defensively as they'd like. Obviously, the result in Georgia not good, but don't read too much into exhibition games. I think the loss of Sellers, though, weighs heavily on this team for however long, if perhaps long, that he will be out.
Do they have rim protection? Defensively, will they gel there, or are guys thinking offense first? Again, when you bring so many new faces, those are some of the challenges that will come to the mixture there. All right, Big 12 football. Believe it or not, Trace, there are good teams in the Big 12. They're actually winning games. BYU being one of them. Them and Iowa State are the 2 undefeated. Colorado is going bowling. They beat Cincinnati. They locked up. They're still in the mix of the Big 12 title race, as is Kansas State, who came from behind to beat Kansas this weekend. Your thoughts on the Big 12 right now?
Let's vow not to report too heavily on preseason projections that called for Utah to win the league, Oklahoma State to be in the mix. The bottom teams are amongst the top teams projected at the bottom. Still anyone's game, right, in this league. But could you really have a championship game that is BYU and Iowa State, 2 teams that UCF has lost to, perhaps playing better at Iowa than they certainly did at home to BYU? You got to give BYU credit, though. Year in and year out, they are a pretty competitive team, and they've put it together this year. So a wide open race as we hit that final turn now in the Big 12.
I think the big story, if you're Brett Yormark, you've got a chance to be a multi-bid league in the playoffs. If BYU keeps winning, Iowa State keeps winning, Kansas State keeps winning. If you could get a Big 12 championship game with an undefeated team versus a 1-loss team, I like your chances of a 2-bid league. Then you've got the Colorado factor. Can Dion win out and sneak in there? That'll drive TV viewership up very high. BYU playing Utah. the Holy War. We'll see how they match up there. Let me ask you this. You saw both Iowa State, BYU up close in person. Who do you think's the better team?
I'd say BYU is who I would take if that was a matchup between BYU and Iowa State. So
I agree.
BYU. Yeah, BYU. All right, switching to our schedule, draft Elo. Hey, I had the third pick in that one, and I loved my picks of Cincinnati and BYU. And I am 0 for 2. You have won 2 games, and now this week you've got UCF over Arizona. You could sweep all 3 of your games, sir. That's pretty good. No audio.
I was going to say I like my chances better than I did in my space trivia. I like my chances. That's all I have.
Yeah. Can we edit that section of the show out? That was not a good.
Not the best moment in the 2-year history of the show. No.
Prop time, Elo. How'd we do?
Well, congrats to you. You nailed it. Jakari Brown threw for more passing yards than rushing yards because they took away the running game from him.
Both though under 100.
Yeah, that is very true.
Can we check in on tight end Randy Pittman Jr.?
What a developing
BYU for a total of 16, Elo.
Yeah.
He is on pace for 24. Would be under the 24 and a half.
All right. Over under, Trace, assuming Dylan Risk will play this Saturday. Over under 12 and a half completions for Dylan Risk.
Over. I believe in Dylan Risk. Of course, we don't know if he's going to play or start, but I
risk.
believe in him. I so want some quarterback to click that I'm willing to believe in Dylan Risk.
What is the over-under on Christian Simmons complimenting the space jerseys in the press box? Once each quarter? Twice?
I don't sit close enough to hear him, but it'll be excessive praise of the space uniforms.
Maybe it'll be on the
Pegasus podcast. We mentioned real quick, we didn't cover it in basketball. We had another prop last week. Thoughts to the Utah Jazz's Taylor Hendricks. We did what would he average for the season? Just a gruesome injury for him during a game this week, and heart goes out to him. He's worked really hard on this team to make a name for himself, and that's a tough one to see. UCF's only NBA player go down like he did.
Agreed. Hate to see that. You hope for the best for him with the modern medicine. Maybe he could make it back a year from now in the court. You know, Trace, people get mad when athletes leave early, turn pro early. Can you imagine if this injury happens while he's still at UCF? He would have been a junior this year, but he wouldn't have the income that he did by being a lottery pick like he was. That's why players leave early, Trace. It's the right decision, whether we like it or not as fans. We're maybe a little selfish on this, and this is an example.
All right, Olympic Sports Roundup, Elo. Women's soccer, their season ends in a 2-2 draw with Cincinnati. They don't make the Big 12 tournament. There will be no postseason of any kind for women's soccer. Men's soccer, they lose. They're still hanging around in the Sun Belt and in the RPI, but they lose at Georgia Southern 2-0. Doesn't help their case. They're going to have to win some games here down the stretch. And volleyball, losing streak continues. Been a mess of a fall for most of the sports.
Has not been pretty. First time women's soccer has had a losing season in a non-COVID year since 2000. A lot of work to be done for Coach Zahadak this offseason with soccer. Men's soccer probably has to make a deep run in the Sun Belt tournament to have a shot to make the NCAA tournament. Volleyball suffered another injury with Emily Wilson. They're down 2 outside hitters short now. Hey, Big 12 softball schedule came out. That's good news. That's what we got to look forward to there, Trace. Softball.
That is what we have to look forward to. All right, time to bring back in Adam. What did we get right? What did we get wrong, Adam? Educate us.
All right, gents. Glad I could.
Besides about space.
Space is not your strong suit. Please never go to space. Tim Harris, the new play caller, has never called plays at the college level. Do with that what you will. Sacks, UCF is tied for 115th in the nation out of 132 with 8 third down conversions. They are 106th in the nation, 43%. For context, the number 1 team, Tennessee, is at 23%. Elo, you said that was the most bizarre question. I'm offended by that as a silly game host, so we'll work on that. Dylan Risk, maybe the answer. Dylan Risk also needs some cardio. My boy was huffing out there. And last but not least, the basketball game has ended. Exhibition UCF 76, Georgia 114. Yikes.
114. That does not sound like the kind of defense Johnny Dawkins wants to play. Hey, Elo, one more thing before we go. A happy 59th birthday to UCF football head coach Gus Malzahn. Did you get him anything? I got him something. I had a conflict. It was not at Monday's media availability.
That was your birthday gift to him. Very good.
About Ted Roof. That is my birthday present Coach Malzahn. I'll look for new episodes midweek every week on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel and wherever you get your audio content with downloads as a podcast drop as well. For Eric Lopez, Adam Eaton, I'm Trylko. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this week's Around the Kingdom.